Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're talking about safety. Well, I've done safety talks here on the show before, and to be completely honest, I don't think we can have enough of them, because regardless of your experience, it's very easy to have an incident. And that is what happened to me just about a week ago. So let's head over to the table saw. I want to talk about what happened in my particular situation. Well, most of you out there know that I have a SawStop table saw. Some of you may not know what this is. And what this is the remains of both the brake cartridge and my table saw blade. When the brake engages and stops this saw on a dime when it sees contact with something that is conductive. In this case, the conductive thing was my right thumb. Now, guys, normally I'm filming in this shop, and this time I wasn't. I'm kind of disappointed in that because I would have really liked to review the footage to see where I went wrong. And I say where I went wrong because I'm going to tell you, machines don't make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. The machine doesn't care where my hands are. The machine doesn't care where it is that I'm placing my skin. The machine just runs. It runs and it cuts, and we are the ones that power what is being cut. So the best that I can come up with, I've gone over this in my head a million times as to how this could have happened. And the best that I figure is that there were several factors in the shop that day. Number one, it was cold out here. I never waited for the heat to come up. I was trying to get something cut. I was in a bit of a rush. I didn't have my saw adjusted properly with the blade at the proper height. I actually had it too high for the application that I was using it for. And even though I was using push sticks and doing it properly, I still came in contact with that blade. So the best I can think of as to what happened, the best I come up with is that I had the first cut, and this is all exaggerated here, but I ran it through, finished my cut, and normally I shut the saw down before I continue the next cut, unless I have all my production pieces right here and ready to go. My first mistake was I didn't have my production pieces away from the blade ready to grab. I had them over here on my fence. So the second mistake was reaching across the blade in order to get a hold of my next piece. I came across, grabbed a hold of the piece. Somehow, somewhere in the blink of an eye, I lost track of where my thumb was in relation to that blade, and my right thumb, somehow right here, I still can't figure this out, but somehow right here it came into contact with the blade. Barely nicked the skin, the blade dropped, it stopped, my saw went into a fault condition, and that was the end of my table saw blade and my brake. However, it got me thinking, after all of this analyzing, what could I do better? And a friend of mine said, you know what, you should bring this to the show as a PSA kind of thing about safety in the shop, and I fully agree. So let's go over a couple of the things here on the table saw especially that you can do to help protect yourself. Will it 100% eliminate you from getting hurt on a table saw? Absolutely not. But will it help to prevent those injuries? Absolutely yes. Now in my demonstration, you saw me push through the stock with this, and this is one of my push sticks. Guys, this is one of the best ways that you can prevent your fingers from coming in contact with the blade while making a cut. Whether it be a push stick like this, or whether it be a shop-made one like this, or another thinner store-bought one, whether it be a gripper, whether it be a push pad, it doesn't matter. I have these things everywhere, and they're all easily accessible. Having them is not enough. Having them accessible to your saw to be able to grab and use at a moment's notice, that is key. Because with safety equipment, if it's not easily accessible and if it's not easy to use, you're not going to use it. So first things first, Do not push wood through with your fingers. Use push sticks, push pads, whatever you can to push the wood through safely to keep your fingers away from the blade. Well, the next thing, guys, that is, it's actually a piece of equipment on your saw that you want to make sure that you're using. And what it is this little guy right here. And what that is a riving knife. Now, guys, if you are using a saw without a splitter or a riving knife, you are asking for trouble. And what the riving knife or the splitter does is it helps to prevent kickback when you're running through a cut. Now, kickback occurs when the wood comes in contact with the back of the blade. It jams and twists and causes a kickback situation. In other words, it comes in this way, hits the back of the blade, it gets wedged between your fence and your blade, and it fires it back this way. Well, where's it going? It's going right into your gut or into your chest, into your hands, into your shop. It's a very dangerous situation, but it happens on this back end of the blade. So what the riving knife does, or the splitter, is as the stock comes through, once it passes the back of the blade just slightly, it now comes in contact with the riving knife. That does not allow the stock to go into the blade to prevent a kick, or to allow rather a kickback situation. So by having this in place, it will stop that kickback. So guys, if your table saw does not have a riving knife or a splitter, get yourself one. If you have an older model saw that does not have one, there are plenty of aftermarket inserts that you can add for riving knives and splitters that will make your saw safe to use and protect you from kickback. Well, guys, one of the other things you really want to protect in the shop, doesn't matter what tool you're on, whether it's the table saw, the lathe, the drill press, whatever, it's your eyes. And this is the kind of normal pair of safety glasses that most people choose to wear. They're a thin, lightweight safety glass. They kind of have a wraparound design that kind of has a side shield incorporated into it. And there's nothing wrong with these. These are a great little unit. They will protect your eyes quite well. But what if you're someone like me that wears glasses? I can't see with these on. I can't see without my glasses on, so this doesn't work. And that's where a pair like this comes into play. These ones here are designed to fit right over top of your prescription eyewear. And the arms on the side are adjustable to help the front edges either come in or out and fit on your ears properly. They fit right around your prescription eyewear and protect you with side shields as well. Side shields are very important because protecting the front of your eyes is not enough. So this here is great for your eye protection if you have prescription eyewear. But honestly, guys, for me, the best thing that you can do is get yourself a quality face shield. Now, you guys have seen me here on the show use my face shield while working on the table saw. And I'm going to tell you, I get a lot of flack for that. I get a lot of people saying, that's really overkill. That is overkill to wear that face shield while you're on the table saw. But I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. A few years back, I was working on the table saw. I was ripping a piece of walnut, and that walnut had internal cracks that I did not know about. And when those cracks finally let go, the back of the blade hooked that piece that separated it and fired it back at my face faster than what I could ever react. Now, that piece of walnut smacked me square on the nose, and I thought for sure that either my nose was split open or it was broken. You're in that moment of panic where now you've got the cut halfway through, you're not sure what to do, you're trying to get your wits about you, you've stopped feeding the stock, but somehow, at some point in time, I kind of regained my composure and I shut the saw off and then analyzed what happened. And if I would have had a face shield on, I would have never had that happen. So I'm going to tell you, All it takes is one smack in the face from a piece of walnut, and you will suddenly see the value of wearing a face shield while working on high revolution tools, something like the table saw or the wood lathe, that sort of thing. So a face shield to protect your face. Remember that. There's the key word right there, guys. This is for your face. This is for your eyes. This is not for your eyes, and this is not for your face. So a combination of both the safety glasses and the shield will give you the best protection all the way around when using high revolution tools. Now, we've touched on things like our fingers, our hands, our eyes, our face. What about our lungs, guys? What about respiratory health and keeping the sawdust out of your lungs? Well, that is where a good quality dust mask comes in. And now there are paper ones on the market that you see a lot of guys using, and while something is better than nothing, something with some replaceable cartridges that are meant for the application that you're using it for, in this case sawdust, is a much better option. These are rated filters here in this particular dust mask. They are replaceable. You can clean them out and reuse them. And they do a great job of keeping the dust out of your system. Now, part of the key to keeping the dust out of your system is getting a good seal around the mask, around your nose, the bridge of your nose, around your cheeks. And I'm going to tell you that if you don't have a clean shaven face, you are not getting a good seal, and this dust mask just became about as useful as a hammer without a handle. It does nothing. The dust will get in through the sides. So you really want to be able to get a good seal. And by having that clean shaven face, the seal or the latex of this mask will adhere almost to your face and prevent the dust and keep it out of your lungs. However, this is used in conjunction with both dust collection, airborne and at the tool, right at the location of the tool. But while it's great for dust, it is no good for things like painting or finishes or varnishes. So for that, you really want to get yourself something like this. Now, this is the same kind of setup with the mask that will adhere to your face and get a good seal, but the difference here is the cartridges, where these are paper replaceable filters. These ones are petroleum or filters for petroleum-based products, such as finishes, paints, that sort of thing. The thing to remember, guys, if you can smell the paint while you're applying it, or you can smell the varnish while you're spraying it, then you're breathing it. That's the bottom line. So if you have a filter that is properly sealed to your face, or a mask rather, that's properly sealed to your face, and you have the proper filters installed in your respirator, you should not be able to smell anything. Choose your mask wisely, guys. Proper one for dust, proper one for finishes. Right tool for the right job. You wouldn't use your table saw to cut fretwork. You wouldn't use your scroll saw to rip plywood. So don't use your dust mask for paints, and don't use your paint mask for dust. Well, when it comes to protecting your hands, a lot of people like work gloves. Or some form of work gloves. These are kind of like a neoprene material on the back and leather palms and fingers. I don't really recommend wearing gloves in the shop. I don't like the dexterity that they take away. And to be honest, these are used mostly for things like handling rough steel when I'm welding, or bringing in firewood so I'm not getting splinters from the split wood. But where I would recommend gloves, and a lot of people don't think about it, is when you're finishing. And getting yourself a box of gloves will go a long way to protecting your hands. There's more than one way to have problems as far as your health goes, guys. And handling finishes with your hands constantly that stuff is getting absorbed into your skin. So if you're using varnishes or shellacs or what have you, that stuff is getting on your hands and it is causing problems. So, skin irritations, rashes, dry skin, you name it, it can cause it. So these things are dirt cheap. You get a box of like 150 gloves for dirt cheap. If you're using them for finishing, I mean, you put on one finish, you can then remove them. From there, take them and I turn them right back proper, the right side out, and then put them aside and let them dry. And then from there, you can put them back on. If they have a hole in them or your thumb wears out or that sort of thing, throw it out and get a new one. As I said, these things are dirt cheap and they go a long way to protecting your hands and preventing skin irritations. It's not always about getting cut or getting something in your eye. There's more to protect than just your lungs, your fingers, and your eyes. They come in different grades, guys, so choose the ones that's right for you. I wouldn't necessarily suggest getting those thin ones that they wear in your local sandwich shop, but getting a thicker quality glove can go a long way. So think about it and remember that this is also part of safety in the shop. And that's about all I'm really going to say about safety for now or for this week. I don't want to carry this on too long and bore you guys, but I thought that it was important that after my mishap that I bring it to you guys. And just a reminder, it never hurts, never ever hurts to have a reminder about keeping safety in your mind. You guys all know I am a big promoter of safety. I am one of these guys that always says, take your breaks, take your time, make sure you're set up, make sure this, make sure that. And yet I still managed to contact the table saw blade. And I can tell you that if it wasn't for the saw stop, and this is not a saw stop promotion, don't get me wrong, but if it wasn't for that technology and if it wasn't for me having that saw, today's show would be a much different tune. I would be singing a very different song here. And I think it would also be done with maybe some reconstruction on the one hand. But either way, guys, I need to stress the point here that taking shortcuts is a good way to get injured. And while you may not get hurt. Nothing may happen. You may run that cut, you may fire it through the table saw, or you may drill that piece of steel or drill into that concrete without safety glasses. You might turn something on the lathe, turn a pen on the lathe without a face shield. Nothing may happen. You may be fine. But it's kind of like Russian roulette. You keep pulling that trigger and eventually the bullet's going to come out. And that's what happens in a lot of cases in the shop. So although I'm going to tell you not everybody uses the safety equipment 100% of the time, myself included. I have never seen anybody use it 100% of the time. Case in point for me, how many times have you ever seen the blade guard on my table saw? It's pretty rare that it's there, and it's not for filming. It's not there because I can't stand the thing. It gets in my way. It really inhibits my work style. However, if that blade guard would have been in place when I was cutting the pieces there, you know what, my finger wouldn't have come in contact with the blade. You see what I'm getting at? What I'm getting at is don't take safety for granted. Don't think it's the machine's fault, because the machine doesn't care how much experience you've got. The machine doesn't care if you've got safety gear on it or not. It knows one thing, and that's how to turn on and run. After that, it's all on you. So if you have an accident or you have something that happens where something flies into your eyes, the only way that it's really not your fault is if you had all that equipment in place, you were using it properly, and somehow it still failed. And that can happen. Other than that, though, guys, take every precaution that you can to protect yourself. I was very lucky that I had the saw stop technology, and it's a real eye-opener. So I wanted to bring that eye-opener to you here today. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click the bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed the content. You know what? I hope you're going to drop your safety tip down below. Let's start the conversation. Let's talk about safety. Let's get it going in the comments section so that other people watching this show can benefit from the safety tips that you guys have had out there. Maybe you have a story of your own where you got injured and you found a way to get around that injury. Let's start the conversation, guys. Let's not take safety for granted. I want to thank you again for tuning in, and I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.